There is a silent siege happening inside your body every single day. It isn't loud. It doesn't hurt right away. And because of that, many people ignore it until their belly starts to harden, their liver grows tired, blood sugar becomes harder to control, and their life energy slowly drains away. You look in the mirror, pinch the fat on the outside, and blame yourself for eating too much, moving too little, lacking discipline. But what's holding you back isn't under the skin. It lies deeper, wrapped tightly around the liver, the pancreas, the intestines. And it exists not because you are weak, but because your body believes you are in danger. Visceral fat is not like other fat. It does not sleep quietly. It talks. It releases inflammatory signals. It interferes with hormones. It disrupts your entire biological system. And the most frightening thing is not that it is dangerous, but why it is built in the first place. Your body does not create visceral fat because of excess calories. It creates it because cortisol, the survival hormone, is constantly being triggered, like an alarm that never shuts off. For hundreds of thousands of years of evolution, cortisol was a hero. When our ancestors faced predators, famine, or war, cortisol ordered digestion to stop, reproduction to stop, muscle building to stop, and flooded the blood with energy to survive. But to survive longer, the body needed a fast-access energy reserve, close to the liver, the chemical processing center of the body. And so, visceral fat was born. It was once a survival backpack, an insurance policy against death. The problem is this: the environment has changed, but biology has not. Today, there are no tigers or famines. Instead, there are deadlines, financial pressure, lack of sleep, caffeine, screen light, social stress. Danger is no longer acute. It becomes chronic stress. Cortisol no longer rises and falls. It stays high. And when cortisol remains elevated, the liver keeps releasing glucose. Insulin is constantly forced to clean it up, and the body is compelled to store energy in the one place it knows is safest, around the organs. You enter a biological loop where the body prepares for famine while you are still eating every day. You may have seen, or you may be, the skinny fat person, thin arms and legs, a hard protruding belly, stubborn fat that won't budge no matter how much you train. This is not bad genetics. It is the sign of a body being drained by external stress, breaking down limb muscle to create glucose, then redistributing it as deep abdominal fat. On top of that, stress activates another ancient signal that makes you crave carbohydrates and comfort foods. Not because you lack willpower, but because your biology is screaming, "I need fast energy to survive." And this is where many people go wrong. They try to force visceral fat to disappear by adding more stress, extreme fasting, endless cardio, more self-pressure. But the body does not understand discipline. It only understands safety or danger. If you attack it with stress, it will cling to fat even harder. To make visceral fat retreat, you cannot fight it. You must reassure it. Slow, steady walking is one of the strongest biological signals telling the brain that everything is okay. Rhythmic movement and passing scenery calm the fear centers of the brain. But walking alone is not enough. The body also needs a signal that counters cortisol. Strength. Heavy resistance training sends the message that muscle must be preserved, sex hormones must be prioritized, and glucose has somewhere else to go besides the belly. This is a combination biology understands very well. Safe movement plus controlled strength. Meal timing matters just as much. Cortisol should be high in the morning and gradually fall toward evening. Modern life reverses this. Late caffeine, evening sugar. The result is a body that never truly rests. Morning protein helps stabilize the nervous system and metabolism. Complex carbohydrates in the evening, contrary to popular belief, can actually lower cortisol, support deep sleep, and sleep is the most powerful visceral fat reduction strategy that few people truly respect. Just one poor night of sleep is enough to significantly reduce the body's ability to handle glucose and push baseline cortisol higher the next day. You're tired but unable to sleep. And the loop continues. Stress also depletes magnesium, a mineral that helps the nervous system relax. When it's low, the body overreacts to even small pressures. You are not weak. Your system is missing the raw materials it needs to stay calm. Finally, there is an uncomfortable truth that must be said plainly. The brain cannot distinguish real danger from worry inside your head. If you live in a constant sense of urgency, your body will behave accordingly. Slow, deep breathing is not empty advice. It is a biological switch that turns on the rest and repair state. And only in that state does the body allow itself to release its final layer of protective fat. If you have tried very hard and your belly still hasn't changed, understand this. Your body may not be working against you. It may simply be protecting you in an old way. Your task is not to punish it, but to teach it that the war is over. If you see yourself in this story, leave a comment. Not to confess failure, but to mark the moment you have begun to understand your body correctly. And when understanding is right, real change finally begins. There is a moment that many people have lived through but rarely dare to say out loud. You ate right, trained enough, stayed more disciplined than those around you, and yet your body did not respond. The scale might move a little, but the belly stays stubborn. Energy doesn't rise. Mornings still feel heavy. And deep inside, a sharp question begins to surface. Did I do something wrong? The uncomfortable truth is this. You didn't do it wrong. You sent the wrong biological signals. The human body does not run on motivational logic. It does not understand push harder. It only understands environment. And if your biological environment still smells like danger, poor sleep, rushed rhythms, eating in a hurry, training as if escaping, then no matter how many things you do right, the body will still choose defense over release. One thing modern science makes very clear is this. Deep fat loss does not start with fat. It starts with the nervous system. When the nervous system is constantly on alert, the body prioritizes storage, not release. You can think of it like a city under red alert. No one empties food reserves while the sirens are still screaming. That's why the people who reduce visceral fat most sustainably are often not the ones who try the hardest, but the ones who create the most stable rhythm. They eat regularly, they move moderately, but consistently. They sleep on a fixed schedule, not because they're perfect, but because their bodies can predict tomorrow. And biology loves predictability. There is a very practical point few people talk about. Training that's too clever can backfire. If every workout leaves you drained, heart racing, dependent on caffeine just to get through, then biologically speaking, that's no different from a prolonged escape. The body doesn't learn, I'm getting stronger. It learns, I'm under threat. And in that state, deep fat is held tightly as a survival barrier. In contrast, activities that sound lighter, steady walking, calm breathing, heavy lifting but brief, sufficient rest between sessions create a deeper biological effect. They tell the body, we are strong enough to carry weight and safe enough not to run. That combination is what changes energy distribution, not just energy quantity. Real life also shows something very clearly. The periods when belly fat drops the most rarely overlap with the most stressful periods. They happen when work becomes less chaotic, when sleep improves, when eating stops being a moral battle. The body doesn't reward discipline. It exhales when it no longer has to brace. Another factor that's rarely mentioned is social biological rhythm. Prolonged isolation, lack of natural contact, lack of daylight exposure, lack of a sense of moving forward, All of these are interpreted by the brain as risk signals. It's no coincidence that people who go outside more, get early light, and talk face-to-face often have more stable metabolism even without extreme dieting. And then, at some point, as the system begins to calm, very small but very real changes appear before the mirror reflects anything at all. The belly feels less hard to the touch, blood sugar stabilizes, sugar cravings fade naturally, afternoon energy crashes disappear. These are signs science recognizes as withdrawal from the inside. Deep fat leaves first. Surface fat follows later. If you're in a phase where your shape hasn't changed yet, but your body's becoming easier to live in, don't rush to doubt it. In biology, the most important changes always happen quietly, and many people quit right before that threshold, not because they're weak, but because they've been trained to measure success only by mirrors and scales. If this passage matches your experience, the feeling of trying long enough but still being stuck, leave a comment. You don't need to tell the whole story. Just a sign that you no longer see your body as the enemy. When perspective shifts, biology often follows. Before this video ends, there is one very important thing I want you to keep. Not as a promise, not as a burst of motivation, but as a correct way of understanding your body. Visceral fat is not an enemy you need to destroy. It is the trace of a body that has lived too long in a state of vigilance. It is proof that your biology has been trying to protect you in the same way it once saved human lives thousands of years ago. We grow up in a world that teaches us that changing the body is a matter of discipline. Eat less, train more, try harder. But biology does not run on slogans. The body does not understand goals. It only understands signals. And for a long time, many of us have unknowingly sent the same signal every day. Everything is unsafe. When that signal is repeated long enough, the body does not argue. It simply does the one thing it knows will help you survive. Store energy in the deepest place. So when you look at your journey and feel disappointed, try changing the question. Don't ask, why can't I lose belly fat? Ask, what is my body trying to protect me from? The second question does not blame. It opens a dialogue. And when you dialogue with biology instead of forcing it, many things begin to change in ways more sustainable than you expect. The core of everything we've talked about does not lie in a specific workout, a specific diet, or any supplement. It lies in the baseline state you live in every day. A body that is constantly sleep deprived, eating in a rush, living under pressure, stimulated by caffeine and screens, will never believe that everything is okay. And when it doesn't believe, it will not let go. In contrast, when you begin to create a more predictable biological environment, regular sleep times, enough movement without exhaustion, eating without it becoming a battle, a rhythm of life with pauses, the body learns something very important. I no longer need to stay on defense. And it is precisely in that moment that the deepest reserves begin to open. Many people quit right before this phase. Not because they are lazy, but because the first changes are not loud. Visceral fat does not retreat like subcutaneous fat. It does not disappear in the mirror immediately. It leaves quietly. The liver feels lighter, blood sugar becomes more stable, cravings become less aggressive, daily energy no longer crashes. These are the signs biology considers victories. But because they don't show off, they are often ignored. If you are in that exact phase, no obvious external change yet, but something inside is different, be patient. In nature, the most complex systems always change from the core outward. No tree blooms while its roots are still broken. Also, remember this. The journey does not require perfection. The body does not ask you to live like a monk. It only needs enough consistency to believe that you are no longer under threat. One late night does not ruin everything. One off meal does not erase progress. What damages biology is prolonged stress, not small deviations in real life. And perhaps most importantly, do not turn health into a moral battle. Your body does not owe you an ideal physique. It only wants to exist. When you stop punishing it for what it had to do to survive, you create a new relationship, less confrontation, more cooperation. And biology always responds well to cooperation. If you take only one thing from this video, let it be this. Visceral fat leaves when the body is reassured, not when it is forced. When your daily rhythm sends one consistent message, enough sleep, the right movement, eating at the right time, breathing correctly, the body will do the rest on its own. Not fast, but real. If you've ever felt like you tried very hard and still felt stuck, leave a comment. You don't need to tell the whole story. Just one line to mark where you are in this journey. Not to seek praise, but to remind yourself that you no longer see your body as the enemy. And if this video helped you understand your body a little more clearly, save it. Not to rewatch immediately, but to remember that some of the most important changes happen before the mirror reflects anything at all. When you give biology enough time and enough safety, it gives you back more than a smaller waistline. It gives you the feeling of living more lightly inside your own body.